Part 1. 12-year-old Amara was sitting in a corner booth at McDonald's, her laptop open, quietly finishing her homework while sipping a small soda. Her mom, Officer Karen Mitchell, was working a double shift at the precinct, so Amara often waited there after school until her mom picked her up. She'd been coming for weeks, buying a drink, using the free Wi-Fi, and minding her own business. But this afternoon, 3 teenage boys sitting across the room started whispering, snickering, and pointing at her. One of them said loudly, "She's probably hacking into something. She doesn't even look like she belongs here." Before Amara could respond, one boy pulled out his phone. "Yeah, I'm calling the cops," he sneered. "Let's see how she explains herself when they show up." Moments later, 2 patrol officers walked in. "We got a report of suspicious activity," one said. Amara's hands shook as she explained she was just using the free Wi-Fi to do homework. The boys smirked from their booth, waiting to watch her get dragged out. But then, a familiar voice cut through the tension from the entrance. "What's going on with my daughter?" Everyone turned as Officer Mitchell stepped inside, still in uniform. Part 2. Karen's eyes swept the scene, landing on her trembling daughter and the grinning teens. "You 3 called the police on a child, my child, for using public Wi-Fi?" she asked, her voice calm but ice cold. The boys shifted uncomfortably. "We thought she was, doing something illegal," one muttered. Karen stepped closer, her tone sharpening. "The only thing illegal here is filing a false police report. You wasted department time, taxpayer money, and scared a 12-year-old girl. That's not a prank, that's a crime." She turned to the officers who responded. "Document everything, names, numbers, and call their parents. They'll be getting a bill for the emergency call, and I'll personally make sure they attend community service." The boys' smug expressions vanished as their parents were called, voices rising in panic over the phone. Karen knelt beside Amara, placing a protective arm around her. "Nobody messes with my kid," she said, loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. By the time they left, the boys were pale, their parents already on the way, and the whole place was buzzing, not about a suspicious girl, but about the day 3 bullies learned what real consequences felt like. "Got it. You want me to create a part 3 that picks up right where the story left off, fleshing it out into a detailed, 850-word continuation. Here's the extended scene. Part 3. The air in McDonald's was so tense you could almost hear the hum of the soda machine over the silence. Karen stood tall in her uniform, one hand still resting on Amara's shoulder, her gaze fixed on the 3 boys like a hawk eyeing prey. The boys had gone from cocky to shrinking in their seats. Their earlier smirks had disappeared entirely, replaced with darting eyes and red cheeks. One of the officers, sensing the weight of the moment, pulled out a small notepad and approached their table. "Names," he said firmly. The tallest boy, blonde hair, freckles, shifted uncomfortably. Jason." "Full name," the officer pressed. Jason mumbled the rest, but Karen caught it. "Jason Miller," she repeated loudly, writing it down in her own notepad. "And your friends?" The other 2, clearly realizing there was no escape, reluctantly gave their names as well, Dylan Hart and Trevor Collins. Karen repeated them for the officer to jot down, then turned her attention to the trio. "You think this is funny? You think you can weaponize the police against a child just because you don't like the way she looks?" Karen's voice was sharp enough to slice through steel. "Do you even understand how dangerous that could have been?" Trevor opened his mouth, maybe to protest, but Karen wasn't finished. "Every year, kids get hurt, or worse, because someone calls the cops with a fake story. You wanted to see her scared. Congratulations, you got that, but now you get to see the other side of it, the part where your actions have consequences." The boys shifted again, but the 2 officers who had originally responded said nothing. They knew better than to interrupt Karen in full protective mother mode. Within minutes, the front door swung open, and a middle-aged man in a work shirt came rushing in, his eyes scanning the room. "Jason," he barked. "What did you do?" Jason's head sank toward his chest. "Dad, don't you dare start," his father cut in. Then his gaze turned to Karen. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Mitchell," Karen corrected, her badge catching the fluorescent light. Jason's father froze. The realization hit him like a slap. His son hadn't just harassed another kid, he'd messed with a cop's child. As Jason's father apologized, Dylan's mother appeared, still in her nurse's scrubs, followed closely by Trevor's stepfather. Within moments, 3 sets of furious parents stood in the middle of the restaurant, all trying to get the full story. Karen didn't sugarcoat it, she explained, calmly but firmly, how the boys had falsely accused Amara of suspicious activity, called the police, and sat there smirking while officers questioned her. And to be clear, she finished, this wasn't just mean. This was dangerous, and it will be treated accordingly. The parents' faces moved from shock to embarrassment to anger, not at Karen, but at their own kids. Dylan's mom was the first to speak. I am so sorry, Officer Mitchell. Dylan, you're grounded until you're old enough to vote. And you'll be apologizing to her and to the officers, on paper and in person. Jason's father quickly chimed in. Same here, and I'll make sure you pay for that false call from your own allowance until you're broke. Trevor's stepfather didn't even speak, he just grabbed the boy's arm and gave him a look that said everything. Karen listened, arms crossed, then nodded. You'll also be attending a community service program I help run for at-risk teens. It's normally for first-time offenders, but given your stunt, you're perfect candidates. You'll spend weekends helping clean up neighborhoods, assisting at the food pantry, and sitting through diversity training. The boys groaned in unison, but one sharp glare from their parents shut them up. Then Karen leaned down to Amara's level. You okay, baby? Amara nodded slowly, though her eyes were still watery. Yeah, I didn't understand why they were laughing when I didn't do anything. Karen's voice softened. Some people laugh because they think hurting others makes them powerful. What they don't understand is that real power is using your voice, and the law, to protect people, not scare them. The entire restaurant seemed to have tuned in now. A group of teenagers in the back whispered to each other, clearly impressed. A mother at a nearby table gave Amara an encouraging smile. Even the McDonald's manager, who had been watching from behind the counter, stepped forward. For what it's worth, he said, Amara's welcome here anytime. We appreciate her business, and she's never been a problem. Karen gave him a thankful nod. Good to know, I'll remember that. As the officers finished filing their notes, Karen looked one last time at the boys. Let today be the last time you ever think about pulling something like this. Next time, you might not be dealing with an off-duty officer who's willing to let your parents handle most of the punishment. Next time, you could be facing charges you can't laugh off. The parents hurried their sons toward the door, muttering apologies again. One of them even told Karen, you probably saved them from doing something worse in the future. When the door shut behind them, Amara let out a long breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Can we go home now? She asked quietly. Karen smiled and ruffled her hair. Yeah, kiddo, and on the way, we're getting ice cream. My treat. They walked out together, the summer sun spilling across the pavement, leaving the restaurant buzzing with murmurs about the scene they had just witnessed. And somewhere inside, 3 empty seats served as a silent reminder of what happens when bullies meet a mother who's both the law and the last person you want to mess with. If you want, I can also make this part 3 even more tense by including a short court scene or public apology from the bullies for maximum justice satisfaction. That would make the ending feel even more complete.